So Wong will take off for second base. No, he doesn't, actually. And there's a comebacker. Helsley has it on the mound, runs toward first, flips to Goldschmidt, and the Cardinals can celebrate a Central Division title, beating the Milwaukee Brewers tonight 6-2 to win the NL Central.
Remember a couple of weeks ago we were asking folks here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri, we said, which would you rather see? The Cardinals win the World Series or Albert Pujols hit 700 home runs? I was in the minority when I said I would rather see Albert Pujols hit 700 home runs because in my 51 years on Earth, I've seen the Cardinals in 7 World Series. I've seen them win 3 of them, the last being in 2011, most epic World Series of all time, 2011. Game 6, Mr. Freeze, home run in extra innings. So I've seen the Cardinals win a World Series. I've never seen a Cardinals player hit 700 home runs. And I actually still didn't see it because the damn game the other night was on Apple TV. Sorry.
Did anyone vote for both? I mean, let's see both.
So now, can I change my mind? I'd rather see the Cardinals win the World Series than Albert Pujols hit 700.
No take-backs.
Cardinals win this the National League Central, very likely in the playoffs. They're going to be playing the San Diego Padres in the first round because now they kind of let everybody into the playoffs. Everybody gets a participation trophy. You get a participation trophy. But in a lot of years, that's been good for us, too, whenever the Cardinals take advantage of the wild card. So just wanted to mention that. How cool is that? Remember, final season, very likely, for Adam Wainwright. Final season for Pujols and Yadier Molina. What a magical time to be a fan of the St. Louis Cardinals. Dude fell off the Rocheport Bridge yesterday when I get into that story. But first, I want to introduce Stephanie Bell. Good morning.
Good morning. Wait, someone fell off a bridge?
Yeah, and there's a lot of things going on there. Wow.
Yeah,
Dude, let me preface it by saying...
All the bridges are standing.
All the bridges are standing.
But people are falling off of them.
People are falling off them. Dude's going to be okay. There's Mr. Brian Houseworth.
It's good to see you, sir. Thank you.
Good to see you. Producer Hannah is here.
Hello.
There's John Marsh. My name is Branden Rathert. This is Crystal Dallas. She is with Lunda Construction, who's handling some of the work out there on the Rocheport Bridge, I-70, going over the Missouri River. She was chatting with KOMU Channel 8 about this guy falling off the bridge.
Definitely a freak incident, but we will, we stand behind our safety protocols and will continue to do training to ensure the health and wealth of the employees on the job site.
So some dude, I don't know if it's safety harness or what, but he's out there. That's got to be frightening, by the way. And I don't care if I'm at Cooper's Landing and fall a foot into the Missouri River. It's the Missouri River. That snapping turtle gar-infested dump of a river and all the trash it carries with it. I don't care if Asian carp.
There are snakes in there, too.
And
there are.
empty cans of Busch beer. I don't like being in that river, much less falling from the
Have you
bridge.
ever been in the river? I don't know that I ever have. I've been in a lot of, tributaries, I would say.
I was in college, though. I didn't know what I was doing. We used to, when I lived in southeast Missouri.
You didn't know what you were doing back then either?
When I was in college, we'd go into the Mississippi River down, where's where the earthquake of 18-something moved, it changed, New Madrid, it changed. We would go there all the time, and we'd putz around in the river, and it was disgusting. Yeah. You'd come out, I was 8 years old, but I had a milk mustache. That's how muddy and nasty that river is.
It is, still is today.
Yeah, it was horrible. So this dude, they're working on the Rocheport Bridge, which is pretty important, not just for us here in mid-Missouri, but really nationwide transport. That I-70 route, I mean, it covers a good portion of our country. But apparently it was a safety equipment malfunction.
And they're not saying how far he fell.
No, and that's what I wish I knew, because I don't know exactly where on the bridge he was. Because then I'm trying to think how far.
It was a decent sized fall. There's no it's at 40 feet minimum. There's just no. Yeah, exactly. Here's the irony, Branden, is while that happened, I was with 550 safety and transportation professionals at the Holiday Inn Executive Center.
Timing could not be worse.
And literally, I was with the Lieutenant Governor Mike Kehoe, the director of MoDOT himself wasn't there, McKenna, but Ed Hassinger was there, and Bob Brinkman, the highway commissioner, and the whole theme is safety. Now, granted, they were really focusing when I was there on distracted driving and speeding, but they were talking about contractors. But I did not hear about this until I got back, and just nobody knew. It either happened right after that, or no one knew about it at the time.
Dude falling off the Rocheport Bridge into the Missouri River. They weren't talking about that at the traffic safety conference, were they?
They weren't talking about it today, but I do expect it will, because it'll probably come up today. That did not come up yesterday when I was there, but thank goodness he is okay. Yeah. According to, our news partner KMIZ and also KOMU, minor injuries. But you fall from that height, that's scary.
What were we just talking about? And it was construction workers, and you're like, they would give each other crap about this. What was that? Because I wonder if the other guys on the bridge were like, dude, party foul. Like, you should not have fallen off of the bridge.
Did you not clip yourself in, man?
Right.
And I imagine, too, it was a dude who rolled a dump truck the other day.
That's right, yeah.
Construction job site, just rolled it over and he couldn't get out. So he had to sit sideways the whole time. Well, I'm guessing all of his dudes in hard hats were razzing him. Maybe this dude, he fell into the water, and everybody, instead of jumping in to save him, just looked down at him as stuff. Party foul, dude. Come on. You're going to ruin it for the rest of us. So the world record for high diving is like 192 feet. I remember that from my Guinness Book of World Records.
Oh, there you go.
192 feet. Now, as I recall, because when I worked in Pensacola for a lot of years, we had a bridge that went over the bay, and people would get out there, and they'd try to jump off that thing all the time to take their own lives. Well, it was only I think 55 feet high.
It wouldn't kill you?
Didn't kill you.
Really? Wow. I thought, like, if you jumped, it's like hitting concrete, right, at some point.
And I want to say, for some reason, I thought, like, that level was, like, 80 to 95 feet. You get above 100 feet, and there's a good chance you're going to die, or at the very least have to take some ibuprofen when you get out of the water.
Well, and I think it's all about technique, too. Like, the high divers are trained in how to, break the surface of the water so that that doesn't happen.
And also, I've heard, again, this is just what I've heard, that if you fall feet first, the chances are better if you fall a different way. We don't know which way, but, I know that in the past, and John will remember this, we've had a number of incidents where people have fallen. Now, of course, we've had the suicides as well, but people have fallen from the bridge in Jefferson City. And many have passed away, but I know some have survived that have fallen off of that. But there have been workers, and there have been incidents where people have fallen off the Rocheport Bridge and not made it. He must have just hit just right, but it is kind of scary.
I've been over here trying to fact check your world record fact.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, this guy holds the world record, and it was 392 feet that he dove. He's a water diver. Like, he started in the water and went down. He didn't jump into the water.
390.
Yeah. I'm sitting here like, wow, I can't believe somebody could survive that. And no.
But
well, I was wondering, because like Hannah says, it's technique. You start falling, and I don't know if you belly flop or what, but like if you're falling from, let's say, even 40 feet from a bridge into the Missouri River, do you all of a sudden become a world-class diver or a cat? And like on your way down, because I'm guessing it's probably the scariest moment in your life. You got a lot of heavy equipment on you. And I'm wondering, like, on your way down, do you all of a sudden like, oh, I better point down and keep my hands together and my feet straight up to make the least amount of impact as possible?
I don't think so. I think anyone who's been to the Lake of the Ozarks on a tube knows when water turns to concrete, because I've been like a skipping rock over the top of the water before and felt it the next day. Apparently he did go to a medical facility, but he is okay. But I suspect he's got some bumps and bruises.
Randy, via text 874-9390. The gar in the Missouri are quite tasty. I've never eaten garfish. I've eaten carp. What does gar taste like? Does it taste like carp or catfish?
Chicken.
I was going to say chicken is always the answer.
874-9390. Quick check of a text from Brenda. My dad's in Fort Myers, Florida. His retirement community is called Shell Point in Lee County, and they are safe in their shelter. Rain. We've been watching this morning. We do have Missourians already on their way to help out with the hurricane stuff in Florida. You ever been in a hurricane, John? Yeah, I've been in tropical storms before. When I lived in Florida, I always tell my friends, man, I think it'd be cool to be, in a hurricane. Just to say, it's one of those things that I've done in life. I've caught venomous snakes. I quit radio to become a ski guide, and I've been in a hurricane.
You're humble bragging wrong.
And my friends say no. Yeah. Said, you don't want to be in a hurricane. It's not the hurricane itself that's bad. It's the aftermath. No power. It gets hot and muggy in Florida. No AC, no ice, nothing cold to drink. It constantly reeks of gasoline and two-cycle oil because they're mowing down the trees and stuff in the yard.
Hang on. So people are currently concerned about, not having a home to come back to. And you would be worried about having a cold glass of water should you be in a hurricane.
Seriously, have you ever been to Europe? You're like, can I get a drink like with ice? And they give you like 3 cubes, and you're like, really? It's the worst part about being there. I'm serious. I hate it. Go for a week and drink warm drinks and see how you feel about it.
Just bring ice from home.
I will say, I know there are several families from mid-Missouri, and I have friends right now down there who are at Disney World. And that sucks. I mean, the hurricane sucks, but, planning, they closed it apparently. So it's closed today and tomorrow, and they're actually telling people to get out.
But also, if you know there's a hurricane coming, do you still go to Disney World?
Do you know how much money Disney costs? Yes, you still go.
Maybe it'll miss us. Maybe it will hook right and just
I mean, it has changed paths since, this weekend. It's moved significantly to the east, I think, and south.
Oh, and I want to highlight this really quick because this was pretty funny. So, and USA Today is about the worst at this anymore. Everything, it's climate change. It got above 98 degrees. Climate change. I mean, you open up USA Today or go to their website, front and center, man. It's all climate change. CNN last night, Don Lemon talking with somebody from NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, about this hurricane and climate change.
About climate change, but what effect does climate change have on this phenomenon that is happening now? Because it seems these storms are intensifying. That's the question here.
I don't think you can link climate change to any one event.
Okay.
And he goes on to say, yeah, you can't link climate change to this event. And Don got a little cranky. And said, well, I used to live there, and hurricanes are stronger now than when I was a kid. Dude from NOAA, yeah, you're not tagging this on climate change. It's Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Welcome into the show.
What I didn't expect is that Mitch McConnell, my Republican friends, would be siding up with Bernie or trying to get the same outcome by not permitting reform.
It's the Democrat senator from West Virginia, Joe Manchin. He's getting us into today's daily D.C. rundown with Stephanie Bell.
You know, for so long he was our friend and helping us out on some of these big spending packages and was really the holdout and really knocked some of these packages down.
It's the one Joe in D.C. we love,
right?
Sometimes.
Although on the last one, he really did us dirty. He said he was going to hold out and then eventually went with the Democrats. And now we're on the hook for, billions of dollars. And so he has this priority, and it relates to the permitting process for energy projects. They had kind of tacked this on to the stopgap spending bill. And he really, really wanted it. And the Republicans were like, hey, no, we saw how you acted the last time. You've been our friend, but we're not going to reward you for that kind of behavior. And so anyway, they have stripped out his permitting proposal out of this bill. It then passed other things. It's got the Ukraine funding in it, so it's got $12.3 billion in for Ukraine. That's on top of the $53 billion we've already given to Ukraine. But it did strip out a bunch of funding for COVID and monkeypox, which I'm thankful to see.
How are we going to forgive all those college student loans if we keep sending our money to everybody else? By the way, there's dude Phil Kerpen, president of American Commitment, thinks there is a way to sue Joe Biden regarding this. Guy in Indiana's already tried. Phil Kerpen, he's actually joining us on the show at 8:10 this morning.
Well, Joe Biden apparently was in, I think he was in the Rose Garden yesterday giving a speech about lower Medicare premiums. And, he's always telling us, but gas is it's going down, and trying to convince us. So apparently he's very excited that Medicare fees are lower next year. Apparently it's a rare 3% decrease. Apparently it's going to save people $5.20 a month.
Oh, you almost had it, Joe.
Which, if you're paying double for groceries, then who the heck cares about $5? Apparently there's also some savings on the annual deductible. From $226, you're going to save $7. So you can buy a couple cups of coffee, maybe.
Thanks, Joe. I'm voting for you again for president because your job with the economy has been outstanding.
What's 7 plus, what did I say, 5?
$12.
$12. I mean, almost as much as you're getting back in your gas tax.
Yeah. Getting slightly more with my gas tax. So they're getting $12. College kids are getting $10,000, and the old people are getting $12.
Well, I think the $5 is per month. So, but still. But anyway, apparently it's enough to have a party in the Rose Garden and
$5 per month.
Campaign on it.
$60 a year. How many years would you have to be on Medicare to get that $10,000 that those dang college kids are getting?
Right. Also, I guess Kamala is still in Asia, and she said she directly challenged China by accusing it of disturbing behavior and provocations around Taiwan. And as soon as I showed up this morning, I got a Fox News alert that apparently North Korea's shooting off more missiles as she is over there. So great. It's going great is what is the overall report. She's over there and just making people mad, I'm pretty sure.
140 years, maybe 150 years. That's how long it would take somebody on Medicare who's going to get bonus $12 a month. If they wanted to make as much or come out on the same side as the kids who get their college student loan forgiven, about 148 years at 12.
Yikes.
And that is your daily DC rundown. We're doing math and everything this morning. Fist bump, dude. We are on it. Coming up. By the way, check this out. There's a Missouri lawmaker, Republican House Speaker Rob Vescovo. He sent a letter to U.S. attorneys saying, hey, listen, what's happening at this AGAPE school here in Missouri, this is amounting to organized crime against kids. Rudy Viets, local state lawmaker, he's been on this. He joins us coming up 5 minutes from now here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri.
In new lawsuits filed against AGAPE, some former students claim verbal, physical, and sexual abuse. And they say, don't just take their word for it, they'll prove it.
AGAPE is a Christian boarding school here in Missouri, northwest of Springfield, right in Stockton. And as a matter of fact, you get on to Google Maps to look up, see where it is. It'll say school is temporarily closed right now, and they've got some issues. Want to bring in Rudy Viets, local state reps Jefferson City area, joining us this morning here on Wake Up Mid Missouri. I'm Branden Rathert, Stephanie Bell, Brian Hausworth, John Marsh, producer Hannah is here. So let's start. And incidentally, Rudy Viets in the past has worked on legislation that goes after schools specifically like this, or the system in general. Mr. Viets, kind of bottom line, what's happening at AGAPE School here in Missouri?
Well, first off, we have to realize that, 557, which is the bill we passed, had balancing acts in it, that there's a balance to protect the due process for the owners of the facilities, too. So, and they're in the court, and it just takes a little more time than some people want to give, I think. I mean, I don't know all the details, but if they're asking for a temporary injunction, which they were asking for, or ex parte, you got to show irreparable harm and immediate harm, and it can't wait until there's a full hearing. In this case, I mean, the allegations I've seen so far have been just that there were employees working there who shouldn't be working there because their background checks, they were not accurate. And I think at that time, the company provider removed those employees. So there wasn't an immediate basis for a temporary injunction shutting them down. But it doesn't prevent them from shutting them down, removing the kids after a full hearing. They make the determinations that were set forth in the statute, which requires, safety, welfare concerns of the children, failing to comply with the law. I mean, this law did its job. It got them into the facility so they can see what's going on. And I think that, there has not been a full, even a temporary hearing yet where they put on the actual facts of kids are alleging sexual abuse and that. This gives them the tools to get into to shut it down and remove the kids. I just think it may not be working quite as fast as some people want.
So this Christian boarding school, AGAPE, serves about 60 teenage boys. School's former doctor charged last year multiple counts of sexual abuse of children. 5 staff members, they're charged with abuse. Missouri Speaker of the House, Rob Vescovo, says this amounts to organized crime against children. So why are we having to fight to get this thing closed, to keep it closed?
Well,
what's going on from this?
And, they had to compile the sufficient data, and they've been working on it, and they've assured me they're working on it. Once they get all the data put divided, there's, getting into a courtroom. The issue right now is, can you shut them down without a full hearing or not, while they would wait till a full hearing? And so, that's a legal question, is who's going to suffer irreparable harm? Is there some harm going on? As you know, Social Services has had people in the facilities for the last several weeks. So making sure there is nothing going on. So, we don't want to jump the gun either. As you remember, there was one up in North Missouri several years ago where they jumped the gun and it cost the state a lot of money when they went in and just removed all the kids. So this bill is designed to protect children, and it will work. It's just you just can't walk in on mere allegations unless you have some pretty substantial allegations. You can convince a judge that they're going to suffer irreparable harm if you don't give them, the children or they're going to be harmed, not real irreparable, they're going to be harmed without giving the owner the facility the time to come into court.
Well, and Vescovo has said he sent a letter to the feds to say, hey, come in and shut down the school. The Attorney General is already in court. So what's the rub there? I mean, do you feel like this is the state can handle this, or should the feds step in?
Maybe there's some other federal laws that they can apply, but our Attorney General's been working on it, and certainly I think we can get it done. It just may not go as fast as we want. And, every time you pass a bill, those people whose motives are usually have not good motives find a way to try to work around it or delay the end result. But I mean, I think from everything I've seen, this facility probably needs to be eliminated, but you can't just do that because we think it should be. You need to go into court, and they're entitled to a hearing.
All right, our guest is State Representative, 59th District, Rudy Viets, talking about Agape School. Rudy Viets reps an area, basically Wardsville, Russellville, kind of south and southwest of Jefferson City. He is joining us this morning here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri.
Well, yeah, you were not entitled to have any regulations or know what's going on or anything on those. There should be no regulations until we pass this bill. They were just they said they were religious, so they're exempt from anything. This bill made them come into compliance and set up steps where they can be shut down, they can be overseen, and they make them, and also control who they have working there. Without this bill, we'd really be have hardly any method to get in there and see what's going on. Certainly, I can't imagine a facility with knowing that now the eyes are on them that would continue the conduct that AGAPE is being charged with doing. But that's beside the point. The point is, this bill was a step to get into these homes that call themselves religious, and it may not be as strong as some people want, but remember, getting a bill through this nature took several years before me that people had tried and it didn't get through, and we got it through along with the help of other representatives and Speaker Boscobel. Boscobel had a very, very active role in getting this bill passed. I mean, I like to take credit for it. Without his movement, it would not have, or his guidance, it would not have been passed probably. So he has a vested interest in these children, and he cares about children, and he's, as most people, get frustrated with the system sometime and seeing if there isn't a more efficient way to get from point A to point B.
And here's the thing that's, I guess, that human aspect. We talk about what's happening at the school and the state government saying, hey, we should have some control. We should be able to watch what you're doing. But I'm thinking about these young kids, these young men in this school saying there was sexual abuse, and they're in a Christian boarding school, and I can imagine the way they feel silenced. Like, nobody's going to believe us when we saying, hey, we're getting sexually abused inside the walls of a Christian home, and nobody can even get in there to even look and see what's happening. These kids are not in a position of power, and that's the thing that, that always bums me out. Unless there's anything, go ahead, sir.
Well, these kids, the harm they suffered is unspeakable. The actions that were taken are unspeakable. But I want to clarify one thing. Mm-hmm. These are not Christian homes. They may say they're religious Christian homes, but they're not Christian homes.
Apparently, according to the allegations, you're correct. They aren't. Do you know, listeners calling in, where parents in all this?
Well, sometimes there are some of these homes that serve very useful purposes. They have children have certain issues in an environment. They're at wit's end, and they see this as an alternative to make it, help the child get back on the right track and overcome some problems. And they work in a lot of situations, not when they're put in homes like this. Mm-hmm. But the parents now, I've had ex-AGAPE members. Now I have talked to a lot of these people who have been to AGAPE and the other homes, and there's been some horrible things going on. That's why this bill passed. I don't know why the parents aren't in there now knocking on the door just when you have these allegations, wanting more, either pulling them out or, trying to verify what's going on, because these children are in a very vulnerable position, and certainly I feel for them.
John Schultz is the attorney for AGAPE. He says that these allegations against the school, quote, 100% false. Let's switch gears here really quick before we let you go, if you don't mind. Session, when you guys going back to work?
Well, hopefully it's a technical session today, so they're probably getting a few of the bills moved. So I expect on Wednesday, tomorrow, we will move we will have some of the bills from the Senate, and I hope between tomorrow and next week we get the issues resolved. We can argue the rest of the year about getting a bill that meets everybody's approval. That's not going to happen.
Yeah, and I would prefer you not, because then I'm paying you $130 per diem. So I would rather we not.
And I agree. the problem is if we don't get it resolved right now, it'll carry in the next session, and we'll drag it out the whole session again.
Well, I hear you. State Rep Rudy Viet reps an area southwest of Jefferson City.
I do want to point out one thing, though. Remember, these owners this bill's designed and why everybody agreed to it. They're entitled to their day in court, and their attorney says, I want them to prove their case, and that's the way the systems work.
All right, and referring back to the AGAPE school situation.
Yes.
State Rep,
Yes.
Anything else that we can add to be of service to the citizens of Mid-Missouri for you this morning?
Everybody should pray that when Monsignor leads us in prayer, that everybody listens.
All right, thank you. State Rep Rudy Viet this morning on Wake Up Mid-Missouri on 93.9, the Eagle Land News Radio 104.5, KWOS. Coming up
And they scream racist, racist, racist. But you know what, President Obama? You know what, President Biden? You know what's racist? When Joe Biden sits by and lets 4.5 million people cross into this country illegally and he doesn't care. You know what's racist? When Joe Biden can't be bothered to go down to the border and see the little girls and little boys being sexually assaulted by international cartels. You know what's racist? When Joe Biden doesn't care about the Hispanic women being raped by the cartels. You know what's racist? When Biden doesn't care about the dead bodies that the cartels leave on Texas farms and ranches across the southern border. You know what's racist? That Biden will do nothing to stop the 100,000 fentanyl overdoses that happened last year. That is grotesque. And you know what's racist? When all the lily white folks on Martha's Vineyard sit back and say, no, 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 we don't want any illegal immigrants here. Send them to South Texas. They can deal with it. That is grotesque. It's offensive. And even to this day, Joe Biden doesn't give a damn.
Man. Fear of the beard. Ted Cruz going off on racism, talking about racist because we're against illegal immigration. People are racist if you're against illegal immigration, not being racist at all, just about protecting a country and against things that are illegal, like illegal immigration. So when these people talk about you're racist because of this, meanwhile, Joe has put somebody forward. Somebody who is supposed to be the Chief Diversion and Equity Officer, the Chief Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Officer at the Department of Defense Education. Her name is Kalisa Wing. She's being investigated because of a lot of her racist ramblings on social medias. I'm so exhausted at these white folks in these sessions. Caudacity. You ever heard of the phrase caudacity?
No.
It's a mix between Caucasian and audacity.
Wow.
Caudacity to say that black people can be racist too. So somebody said, black people can be racist too. And she didn't take too kindly to that. So Ted Cruz there going off.
Ted Cruz is going to be in Kansas City tomorrow, apparently headlining a fundraiser for Schmidt.
How about that, Eric Schmidt? By the way, we've got some new, Trudy Bush Valentine has some new ads. I was hoping.
Did she use the song?
I was hopeful when I saw the story that there's new ads. I'm like, oh, you mean there's a follow-up? There's a follow-up hit to the first song? And it's not a campaign song.
Anthem. She called it an anthem.
She called it an anthem.
I called it a lot of things. The bop of the summer was not one of them.
Summer anthem is what she had hoped it would be.
It's the right time. She's the right choice with a caring heart. She's a brand new voice, an inspiration for all to see. Show me Missouri, show me Trudy.
That's her campaign anthem. She's got some new ads, not quite as delicious as this, but some ads. And they're attacking Schmidt for a couple of things. The big issue for her, dealings with China as it relates to Schmidt, and then abortion. Her ad posits it as Eric Schmidt wants to take away your right to choose. We're going to highlight some of those later this morning here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri. I'm Branden Rathert, Stephanie Bell, John Marsh, Brian Houseworth, producer Hannah is here too. So how hard is it to get employees to work for you? If you're a small local business, you probably know there's people offering all kinds of incentives. It's so bad that even the state of Missouri, they're having a hard time. Everybody's having hard times recruiting employees. But they did a big thing coming this past Monday. This, according to the Jefferson City News Tribune, they had like teams. How would you call this thing?
It sounds kind of like Shark Tank for state employees. They were like presenting ideas, and I think somebody was picking a winner or something.
So they did a couple of ideas. One was how can we recruit people? So they came up with ideas like 4-day work weeks, cash incentive employee referral program, and an internal pool of temporary employees. So in other words, the folks, and I get it, man, it's a hard thing to do right now. We deal with a lot of small local businesses, and every single time, biggest challenge right now, keeping employees. So even the people at the state of Missouri, like, I don't know, we don't have anything. Steph, you got anything? Hannah, you got any ideas? Which I think is great. Go to your employees, ask your employees, what do you think we could do to keep? And I would guess 9 times out of 10.
It's just more money.
It's the money, stupid. It's the economy, stupid. It's my economy.
I mean, for state employees, the 4-day work week, they've I think they still offer 410s. I think a lot of people are on 410s. But definitely, I mean, during COVID, a lot of them went remote, and there was a huge pushback because a lot of them got told they could continue to work remotely, and then they got told, oh, wait a minute, you got to come back in the office. And I know that had people quite upset. I think the state has reimagined that position, and I think some agencies are allowing folks to work remotely, and I think people do really like that. I'm an in-the-office kind of gal. I don't like remote work, but for a lot of people that's helpful. But yeah, I think going to the employees is the right thing, honestly. There's a lot of quality folks who work there, and anytime your boss says, I know what's best for you, or whatever, without asking the employees, I think it's a bad move.
The other thing they did, they had teams, how to make Missouri government more efficient. Well, you can start by fixing the website where I file for my gas tax receipt money. You start there. What do you say, Marsh? You on board with this one? Some of the state workers I talk to say, well, they could hire better coworkers for me. There is that, too. Or, the other thing they could do is ask us, we the people, the residents of Missouri, what can you do for me? What can you do to make Missouri government more efficient for me? By the way, Wayne Wallingford, director of Missouri Department of Revenue, gas tax receipts. How many people have filed for that refund? He's going to be joining us on the show tomorrow here at Wake Up Mid-Missouri. So about that hubbub over the reconstruction of the 6370 Interchange. Columbia Mayor Barbara Buffaloe is here at 7:10.
So Wong will take off for second base. No, he doesn't actually. And there's a comebacker. Helsley has it on the mound, runs toward first, flips to Goldschmidt, and the Cardinals can celebrate a Central Division title, beating the Milwaukee Brewers tonight 6-2 to win the NL Central.
How about that? Cardinals have won the National League Central more times than the other 4 teams in the division combined going to the playoffs. I think very likely they're going to be facing the San Diego Padres. How cool is that? Just something to feel good about here in the middle of the week, because the rest of the news stories, frankly, they suck today.
So on Friday when we wear red, we'll be wearing red Cardinal shirts?
Red Cardinal shirts,
Okay.
red for everyone to play. You know, seriously, news really isn't all that bad today. Special session, still waiting to see what happens there as it relates to potential tax cuts for us Missourians. All the bridges are still up, although a dude did fall off the Rocheport Bridge yesterday. And the timing could not have been worse yesterday.
A little ironic.
The 2022 Highway Safety and Traffic Conference. Some 500 people from transportation, law enforcement, all in town yesterday. And this dude's safety, and he's okay.
Thank goodness. Yeah.
That's why we giggle a little bit. It's because he is okay.
And the timing, isn't that ironic? Welcome to the show. Wake Up Mid-Missouri. There's Stephanie Bell.
Good morning.
Brian Houseworth is here.
Good to see you, sir. Good
That
morning.
is producer Hannah.
Hello.
John Marsh is there. My name is Branden Rathert, Mayor of Columbia. Barbara Buffaloe joining us. I want to talk about 6370, probably one of the most outside of Kansas City and St. Louis. Really, I've heard more than one person say this, probably the most important intersection, transportation hub in Missouri, because you've got one of the main thoroughfares for north-south traffic in 63, and then east-westbound coming through Missouri, all the truckers and all the commerce that they bring through here. And in the next few years, man, they're going to tear that thing up and scratch their heads, start over, and go, now what should we do? Mayor Barbara Buffaloe of Columbia, she is joining us on the show now. And thanks for joining us this morning. By the way, what do? You sound like you're outside.
Thanks, Branden. No, I am. I just walked my son to his walking school bus stop before I head back to my 7:30 meeting. So,
Aww.
Yeah, I'm walking, but that's okay.
How cool is that? What's your kid's name?
Benjamin.
Benjamin. All right, little Benjamin being walked to school by his mom. I remember the days when my mom did that for me. Pretty cool thing.
That's awesome.
Missourian yesterday headline. So I reached out to the mayor. I'm like, hey, 63. So what's going on? Headline: Missourian City Council raises concerns with MoDOT's I-70 plans. Do you have concerns about MoDOT's I-70 plans?
Branden, that's better. That's better than the headline. That was the online headline. The print headline said City Council opposes I-70 MoDOT plan. And I'm like, no, wait, what? What letter did you read?
Oh, wow.
No, so the City Council at our last Monday's meeting, we reviewed the plans that they have, and we just brought to their attention some of the areas that we wanted them to make sure to remember. Mm-hmm. So, for instance, on some of the alternatives for the 70 and 63 interchange, there didn't seem to be a lot of consideration to our commercial developments along Conley Road. So we were concerned about that. We also have a trail extension plan that goes under that. So we wanted that Hinkson Creek Trail expansion to be known so that they didn't accidentally undo any of the work we'd already started. So it was just basically, we wanted to give feedback to make sure that they were working collaboratively with our Public Works Department and our Planning Department.
Just make sure everybody's on the same page. I get it. So the headline in the print edition, and I'm not trying to pick on the Missourian here. We know what they are. They have actually far surpassed the Columbia Daily Tribune in the past 5 years. But they have a lot of young, budding journalists, and they make mistakes sometimes. Was that the first? But that's opposes. That's way different than raises concerns. That's two different. Yeah, two different things. Was that your first?
I will, Branden, I will get you. So we did reach out to the Missourian, and they are putting a correction in the paper today. I'm not sure what that correction will read or what, but they are going to try to, correct that narrative that they put out there in the headline.
So since you've been in office for what, 4 or 5 months now, is this the first time like something that you did or something the city that you've been completely misrepresented in the local media?
I'm sure it's not been. And to To be honest, Brendan, I know sometimes planes get off, and I know sometimes we want people to read the story.
Mm-hmm.
But for the most part, it's been okay, and they've been responsive when I have a correction, so I appreciate that.
Yeah, Mayor, I appreciate you taking the time to join us. I know when I saw that original headline, it didn't look right because I told Branden it wasn't an action item. In fact, it was scheduled to be a report, and it was really discussed in the pre-council meeting. That said, I mean, clearly there are concerns. I think you summed it up. There are concerns with it, and you've expressed those concerns, if you will, to MoDOT. My question is this, because I did cover the July meeting at the Arc. It was really more of an open house. They are considering a diverging diamond at 70 and 63. No decision has been made, but they're looking at a $140 million upgrade. But they're still fine-tuning that. And my question is this: what about the Aldi's that is being built up there off of Conley Lane? And it looks to me like there could be something else going in there. And then the Clark Lane right behind it, how is that going to work out if they do a diverging diamond? I'm a little unclear on that.
Well, so that's where we had some of the concerns, too. If you look at their alternatives for the I-70-63, we were worried about some of our commercial developments existing and prepared that were kind of being just, X'd out as if they weren't there for some of this. And so in our letter, we talk about the importance of both the Route B corridor with connecting to 63 and our 63 and 70 interchange, and making sure that they're not taking away anything that we need for getting that corridor going and getting the traffic and freight through.
All right. Our guest is Mayor Barbara Buffaloe, Mayor of Columbia, talking about 6370, that interchange. MoDOT's going. Do you know the time frame on when they're going to start?
So according to their time frame, right now they're in the process of getting the information, and then they're going to go out for a design build. Mm-hmm. I believe they're trying to think about going out for their design build bids in the spring. We obviously have some questions about what they're doing for some of the community engagement on a lot of these issues,
good.
As well as the rest of the. So one thing, if I can note, Branden, and Brian, is that on that area, so they have money for the 70-63 interchange. Yes. But in their environmental scan and their review, they're looking at 70 all through Columbia.
That's right.
In case they get any additional funding, they want to know our priorities.
Well,
so for Columbia, we wanted them to think about, we're growing to the east. And then also we have, obviously, concerns on the west side to make sure emergency vehicles can get, in case something does happen on 70, that we can get around. So we raised those in our letter as well. So in case they get funding, they can make sure those are priorities of ours.
I'm weirdly passionate about that 6370 interchange because every time I come back on the weekends from my dad's, I come from St. Louis. It's a dumpy entrance into what I think is a wonderful city. You can say what you will about the politics and all that, but this is a wonderful city. And our gateway into Columbia, it's a dump. As a matter of fact, I'd ventured on a private project for almost a year, got money, got paperwork from MoDOT, like everything I needed in place to do some private stuff up there. And then MoDOT says, "Hey, Branden, that thing you've been wanting to do for a couple of years and been working on? We're just gonna ransack the place, man." But it is important for all of us here in mid-Missouri, and not just 6370. But you come down 70, we are a dump. We really are. And I hate to say that because I love this. I do. I love, and it says a lot about us. It says a lot about it's an entrance into mid-Missouri. Quit laughing, Steph.
Oh, it's very like squishy and woo-woo for you to be like, let's make it pretty. And I am very much of concern. I mean, it matters to me because like my kids sometimes will have games at Cosmo, and from Ashland, it shouldn't take me an hour to get. But if you have to come up on 70 during rush hour, like it's just a disaster as far as just infrastructure and traffic flow.
Yeah.
And then there's that too.
I was like trying to. So, Branden, one thing I was going to say with that is that it sounds like you want to be on our beautification committee that is trying to work with MoDOT to make sure that it looks nice besides just being also functional.
If it benefits Columbia and my listener doesn't get mad because I'm part of a beautification project.
Oh, my God. Imagine the T-shirts. These T-shirts are going to be great.
Imagine the pushback and all that and the controversy. Columbia Mayor Barbara Buffaloe joining us this morning here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri.
I am super supportive of this. You know, I feel like we change half of our population with Jefferson City every day in the morning and the evening, and same with them. And so I think if commuters have the opportunity to then just get on the bus and go, I think that saves us so much of that traffic crossing both their bridges as well as coming in on the beautiful 63 and 70 interchange.
All right. Anything else that you want to?
I was going to add.
Yeah,
Brandon. So yesterday I was really excited. So council members Pitzer, Peters, and Lovelady and I were able to attend the ribbon cutting for fire station number 11. We did the groundbreaking for the new fire station in Southwest Columbia, and it was just fantastic to see like all the movement that's happening there. Ironic was that fire station 10 is still not being built yet, so we've just skipped ahead because I joke that Matt was just better at it than Betsy was to get it going in his ward.
And that's impressive groundbreaking for that. And man, and you know what advisory committee you should appoint me to seriously is on this homeless because Barbara. And you know where I stand on this, but you guys...
Actually, I don't have an advisory committee, but apparently the whole community is my advisory committee.
You need one, and you need somebody who knows what they're talking about. I did a documentary on homeless. The Associated Press gave me an award for it. And I'm not trying to flex here on my award-winning documentary from the Associated Press. But seriously, I want to send it to you. It's really nice, narration, music, and everything. But spending time and living with homeless people, I think I have the most sensible take on it than anybody that's in city government.
According to you, right?
According to me. Barbara, I'm just teasing, but put me on that committee. I'll help you with homelessness here in this town, okay?
You send me your documentary and we'll get together.
Seriously, what's your email? Let me put you on hold. I know you got to get on to the next thing. I'm going to put you on hold. I will get your email address, and then we are going to get ready for What's Hot with Hannah, coming up 7:25-ish. What do you have for us this morning?
I feel like I failed the Wake Up family because I haven't been talking about an important sequel that's coming out on Friday.
Good morning, 7:25-ish, which means it's
7:25.
time for What's Hot with Hannah.
I feel like I've been letting the Wake Up family down.
How come?
Because I haven't been talking about a movie sequel that's coming out on Friday. I just realized that the release date is 2 days away, and I haven't said a word about it.
2 days away. Hannah has spoken nary a word of it.
And I have no idea what you're talking about.
It's coming out on a feel-good Friday.
Hocus Pocus 2!
What?
The sequel!
Really?
Yes! It's coming out on Disney+. I know there's going to be strong feelings about that, but it is premiering on Disney+ Friday at midnight. So I may or may not be here Friday morning. We'll see.
Does it have the same three gals?
It does.
Oh.
So the OG Hocus Pocus came out 30 years ago.
No.
And
no.
they somehow got all three of the Sanderson sisters to return for the sequel, which I think is really cool.
Marsh, you look excited. Yeah. Bette Midler.
Yeah, Sarah Jessica Parker. And I can never pronounce the third girl's name. Kathy Najimy?
That sounds right.
Something like that.
No idea.
And it's coming out because October, Halloween.
Yeah.
Hocus Pocus, midnight Friday. Oh, I saw, kid you not, saw a Christmas commercial on the TV the other day.
No.
Yep, saw a Christmas commercial.
It's almost the most wonderful time of the year.
Pumpkin spice season was the most wonderful time of the year.
There's lots of most wonderful time of the year. Basically, anywhere from mid-September to the end of the year is the holiday season in my mind, and nobody can tell me otherwise.
There's like a calendar for October that you can watch like a spooky movie every single night of October.
The Exorcist. That does it for me. I watch The Exorcist, and I'm good.
See, my fiance is not a big scary movie person, so that's kind of a bummer.
Hocus Pocus isn't really scary, but
No,
it's one of those ones. I think I did show it to my kids, and they were like, "Ooh."
But yeah, the second movie is coming out, and it's got a little bit of their origin, I think, the Sanderson sisters, and then it comes back to present day, and it kind of seems pretty similar to the first plot, honestly, but I'm still excited. Yep, lights a candle, 16th birthday.
I want to talk about something that's happening to Biden. And Hannah, I'll give you a chance to practice Hannah's rule number 99, and that is read text before you read them on air. But you can read Gary's text. Well, I'll tell you, there's a dude in Indiana.
Gary's a party pooper.
There's a dude in Indiana. He's suing the Biden administration over this college student loan forgiveness.
Thank goodness.
Yeah. Now, there is a dude by the name of Phil Kerpen. He comes by from time to time. And he has written a piece, and it targets specifically Missouri and Oklahoma. And he asked the question. His name is Phil Kerpen. He is the president of American Commitment, AmericanCommitment.org. It's a website. You might be interested in seeing some of the stuff they have on there, AmericanCommitment.org. I think it's stuff, just because you're listening to Wake Up Mid-Missouri, I think it's stuff that you would be interested in. But Phil is asking the question, can the president, number one, spend $500 million, $500 million to $1 trillion without approval from Congress? This dude, Phil Kerpen, he's going to be joining us on the show at 8:10. And here's the thing that really, the more and more that I think about this, and I haven't talked to veterans in person to see what they think, but like if you're a veteran and you did the GI Bill and you went and you served our country and God knows what you did and where you got shipped and the things you had to see and experience and all that, you worked for that money. And I'm wondering, like, how does a veteran take that? And then there's kids, they just get 10 grand, just wiped off the slate. I wonder how military personnel think about that. What does Gary's text say? Did you get a chance to proofread it?
Yeah. Gary said Hocus Pocus, double puke.
Coming. Hey, there is something triple. Something really cool happening in mid-Missouri this weekend, and it has to do with unclaimed property. State Treasurer Scott Fitzpatrick joins us 5 minutes from now here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri.
Greetings. This is Darth Vader. It was during my meditation that I sensed a great disturbance in the Force. It was then I realized it was your birthday. Most impressive. Your age has increased your control of your emotions. This will give you a clearer path to the dark side. Let me deliver you this specialized message. Compliments of the Galactic Empire. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday from the dark side. Happy birthday to you.
All right, maybe in retrospect, not the right happy birthday greeting to play for a politician when we're talking about the dark side. State Treasurer Scott Fitzpatrick, auditor candidate Scott Fitzpatrick, having a birthday today, man. Welcome into the show. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing well. I guess I'm another year older today,
Amen.
So it's always good.
Which birthday is it for you?
35.
35 years old. Man, you're even younger than Stephanie Bell.
Hey! Hey!
Scott Fitzpatrick, State Treasurer, running for auditor, which right now, incidentally, the lone statewide office that's held by a Democrat, Nicole Galloway.
Yeah.
Welcome to the show. This is Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Stephanie Bell is here and PO'd. There is producer Hannah.
Hello.
Miss John Marsh is here. My name is Branden Rathert. Brian Houseworth is here too.
Stephanie, don't hit Branden with anything.
See, this is when you want to be watching. Scott, you be sitting there in your state treasurer's office. You could pull us up on the YouTube channel, Wake Up Mid-Missouri, and you can see the glances, the wicked looks Steph is giving me this morning here on.
Well, it's always better in person. Next time I need to come into the studio and do it. So
that would be cool too. Big event coming up in the next few days here in Mid-Missouri. What are you guys doing?
We are bringing our unclaimed property auction back to the great city of Columbia next week, and it'll be the first one we've had in Columbia since, I guess, probably 2018. And we're looking forward to being there and gonna have a good event.
It's like a giant garage sale or something. I'm on your website, so there's what is this website? treasurer.mo.gov/auction. There's some weird stuff, but some cool stuff. I've seen like a pipe with its own case. I've seen a lot of jewelry, some weird Pez dispensers. How do you come to be responsible for these items?
Well, most time when people think of unclaimed property, they think about the cash items that we receive, uncashed checks, life insurance policy proceeds where they couldn't find a beneficiary, things like that. But we also get the contents of safe deposit boxes sent to us. So when somebody does not pay rent on their safe deposit box for 5 years, the bank has to remove the contents and send it to us. It's presumed abandoned at that point, and then we basically inventory the contents of those boxes and try to return that to the people who had the box. And when we don't get that done, which happens sometimes, we have it for another 5 years typically. And when we can't find the owner, then we have to auction it off in order to make room for the new incoming.
I just want to meet the person who put the Orange County Chopper Pez dispensers in their safe deposit box. So then once you get a hold of it, do you have just a giant warehouse full of other people's stuff?
We have a big room. Yeah, we have a room in one of the state office buildings that we call the vault, and it's a room that's filled with large safes that contain all these safe deposit box contents. And so it's filled with other people's stuff, and there's a wide variety of things. One man's trash is another man's treasure, they always say. So it's you never know what's going to end up in the safe deposit box. We find, like you said, the Pez dispensers. We find we had a clown suit in a safe deposit box a few years ago. And, all kinds of random things that end up there.
State Treasurer Scott Fitzpatrick is here talking about this auction coming up in Columbia next couple of days. Check out the stuff now, treasure.mo.gov auction. You weren't kidding, Steph. There's an inordinate number of Pez dispensers in this auction, Mr. Treasurer. What is it with people putting the Pez dispensers into their safe deposit boxes?
I don't know. I really liked Pez. I still like Pez. My kids are now to the age where they like Pez, so I get to eat Pez again.
Nice.
Which I didn't get to do for a while from growing up until I had kids. So I don't know. I think some people really like Pez, and some people really like their Pez dispensers apparently. So that'll be an interesting one to see what it goes for at the auction.
Old Keystone model 8mm movie camera, an actual $1,000 bill.
Yeah, I think there's a $1,000 bill and a $500 bill. So those were discontinued in 1969. They haven't made those for quite a few years now. And I think the ones that are in there are 1928. They were printed in 1928. And so yeah, that's pretty neat.
So let me ask you this. You ever get anything you get in? The safe deposit box, there's no hope it's coming back, and you all go and you get the key and you unlock it and you take the contents, and sometimes it's good enough stuff you put it on an auction like you're going to do in Columbia next week. But have you ever found anything in one of those boxes, Mr. Treasurer, and said, that never needs to see the light of day again?
Sure. I mean, the main suggestion I would give to you is that if don't put a bunch of photographs in a safe deposit box that you don't want anybody else to see, and then not pay the rent on the safe deposit box. That's the biggest advice I'd have for you.
Oh, God.
Yikes.
Okay.
So
Brandon's turning red. I think I am too. Yikes.
Did Brandon just run out the door to go to the bank to empty out a safe deposit box?
How about that? I didn't know that. All right, State Treasurer Scott Fitzpatrick joining us this morning on Wake Up Mid-Missouri.
So military medals are one thing that we never sell at the auction. There are a lot of things. We've talked about kind of the funny things and the interesting things in safe deposit boxes. But for people who are into, jewelry or, expensive watches or things like that, there are those things that makes up the bulk of what's sold at the auction. That, along with gold and silver, and other types of currency is kind of the bulk of what gets sold at auction. But you're right. We do get military medals and awards and insignia. We have Purple Hearts, Bronze Stars, Medals of Honor. And I think we have around 160 right now of those, and we treat those in a different way. We'll never sell those. We actually have a special page on our website dedicated to those items that we have a picture of each one of them, the name of the safe deposit box, the owner of the safe deposit box that came out of, and we work to try to return those forever. So we'll continue to hold those, and we always try to, around Veterans Day, we try to partner with various veterans organizations to raise awareness about those military awards and insignia that we have, and try to get those back. We do that all year round, but we really try to make an extra effort around Veterans Day when more people are kind of thinking about it and it's top of mind.
All right, State Treasurer Scott Fitzpatrick running for auditor, seat currently held by the lone Democrat statewide office holder, Nicole Galloway. Scott Fitzpatrick actually is going to be up against Alan Green, the Democrat, and there's some other candidates in that thing. Your birthday today, you get done working today. What do you and the family do after work tonight?
I think my brother and his fiance and my parents are coming over to our place tonight for dinner, and we'll hang out, spend a little time with family, and the kids obviously, and just have a good time. It's during campaign season, the family time is a little bit scarce, so it'll be good to have a night together with everybody to to spend time.
I'm happy for you. Make sure you talk to the family about what is proper etiquette for what should be and what should not be put into safe deposit boxes. Okay?
Well, they've been well educated, I assure you. So.
That's the lesson this morning from our state treasurer, Scott Fitzpatrick. I think offering some pretty solid advice. Don't put photographs in your safe deposit box because one day you might die. We can't find anybody, and then we're going to sell them at an auction.
Well, yeah, we're not. Yeah, that we don't generally do that. That's the only other thing we really don't sell. But it doesn't have any real value. So, but either way, you just probably want to avoid that.
Okay.
So.
Happy birthday, man.
Thanks. Good talking to you guys.
We'll see you. How about that? State treasurer, man. Gosh. Hey, before we move forward, because I do want to apparently there were some strange lights in the nighttime sky in mid-Missouri the other day. One local news outlet seems to think they know what it is. Bernie Sanders on CBS yesterday, and they're talking about age limits. Should office holders, when we vote for people, have age limits?
Yes.
We should have age limits for driver's license, too, and I hate to say that, but
we
watch
do.
them. Do we?
You have to
a
be
maximum?
16.
No, a maximum age.
Oh.
Yeah, maximum age, not a minimum age limit, a maximum age limit. Because I remember going through this with my grandpa. I'm thinking, you can't drive a car, and you want somebody like Joe Biden driving the country, in effect? Bernie being asked about age limits yesterday on CBS.
And most Americans, according to numerous polls, including a CBS poll, say, yes, there should be age limits. And in fact, the older people support age limits more than younger people.
Yeah.
Where are you on that question, Mr. 81-year-old?
Excuse me, what did you say?
All right, so Bernie Sanders, calling out his inner Biden, having a little bit of fun with the folks. Strange lights in the nighttime sky. This was going down on
We feel compelled to go and help others as well. We've seen the benefit of it, and hopefully we can help, those folks in Florida get back into power soon and try to get back to their normal lives.
That's Doug Colvin. He is the Director of Utilities in Nixa. It's a little south of Springfield, chatting with our news partners, ABC 17. So we've got a lot of Missourians on the way out to help folks in Florida. That hurricane crashing over Cuba, then strengthened. It's almost, Stephanie's been following this thing, but almost, I think Cat 5 is 157 miles an hour sustained winds last check.
153. I think it's like 2 miles per hour away from Cat 5.
So yeah, it's pretty nasty there. But this guy from Nixa, they're like, they said, yeah, we're absolutely happy to help some of our folks to help out in Florida. Florida Utilities, they came and helped Nixa out 15 years ago. I think it was like 2007, 2008, something like that. They had a bad ice storm, and that's how they do. And I'll go to Task Force 1, Boone County Fire Protection District. They get called all over the country to help out during natural disasters. It's time these people are taken away from their families and going into the aftermath of a hurricane, although I've never been in one. I've been in the aftermaths of tropical storms. Pretty nasty. It's hot. It's muggy. There's mud and crap everywhere.
No ice.
No ice.
That was your complaint earlier.
No air conditioning.
No, it's serious. And I get real weird around that. Like, I get glued to the media around these times. And, it is going to be a real test for DeSantis because it's serious. If a Cat 5 actually makes landfall, it is going to be devastating. And that's awful.
How far I wonder how far away if Trump's going to get hit, if Mar-a-Lago is going to get hit in this. That's the important question, right, Marsh? I need this. Really? Oh, wow. And if you look at the maps, this is not like kissing the left coast of Florida. Like, it's crashing into Tampa and it's going across. It's seriously.
So Mar-a-Lago is opposite coast from Fort Myers, but it's way down there south. So okay. I think it's going to be right in the path.
It's not going to get them. But for real, this time, this is it. This is the end for Trump. I can hear the media. This is it. The walls are closing in like they've been doing for the past 6 years almost. That God will do what Nancy Pelosi could not do. Take out Trump. Welcome to the show. This is Mid-Missouri. So the other night, as a matter of fact, we were talking about this a little bit, and listen to Rebecca. Texted us and even sent a picture. Apparently, some folks saw Sunday night here in Mid-Missouri, people seeing a string of white lights across the sky.
I saw a lot of people post about that.
Yeah, and it was how would you describe the picture that we've seen posted on the social medias through Mid-Missouri?
It's a string of lights,
and it's moving, kind of caterpillar, not quite caterpillar, but it's just really interesting. Apparently, Starlink satellites, this according to KRCG, the day before, SpaceX launched 52 of its satellites into low Earth orbit from Cape Canaveral, Florida. Starlink will bring internet access to underserved parts of the world, like the White House, because they don't even have Google to fact-check half the crap they say. So maybe we'll get the White House some internet access so they can fact-check the own crap that comes out of their mouths. Rebecca's description is pretty cool. She says, we were outside checking out Jupiter, and my son turned around and said, look, it looked like a shooting star or something. Mm-hmm. But he managed to catch the picture really quickly before it dimmed out. It was really crazy, and the length was insane. And says, my son who took the picture, his name is Isaac Bundy. He managed to get that shot. Thank you. We appreciate the picture. And there's a website you can go to. There's an app for that. FindAStarlink.com. FindAStarlink.com. And it shows you where these satellites are, so you can
pay there. I know people in Mid-Missouri who have the Starlink internet or whatever, and I think it brings up a good point. We're doing all this investment in infrastructure and rural broadband, and are we going to need it if we have Starlink internet?
Yeah.
I don't know.
So kind of interesting. And I'm one of those, listen, I believe in ghosts. I have seen a ghost kissed me on the cheek back in 2005 when I was going through my second divorce. But I've never like UFO. Quit! I hear everybody laughing just because I can't see you right now. It's because I can't see you. I can hear you, man. But didn't you say? I thought you said you'd seen maybe a UFO one time, Steph. No,
no, but I believe they're real.
Do you?
Like UFOs? Yes, I think
We should have our alien expert on again.
Yeah. Like UFOs from other planets, or just UFOs, unidentified flying objects?
Oh, I think unidentified flying objects are for real. What they are, I don't know.
All right. Coming up. Hey, there's a guy who thinks we can sue Biden about college student loan forgiveness. He's here at 8:10.
Tons of my friends are taking out loans and stuff right now, and extra loans just to like pay rent. So yeah, everyone's a little nervous right now.
We're college kids. It's not like I make 6 figures a year. So, I mean, I know it would definitely benefit me if I could get it just pushed off a little.
I am leaving school currently with no debt, and I'm still stressed out about money and how it's going to work out. So imagining adding on, student loan debts on top of that would be really tough.
You're supposed to be stressed out when you're a college student. That's the way it goes, man. That's how it's supposed to be. You start taking on more responsibilities. More responsibilities are new. This is my experience. I don't know what your experience was, but you take on new responsibilities as you do when you get older. Like you take in more responsibilities in middle school, and then you get to high school, and that's stressful too because you take on more responsibilities there. Each level of life or education, yeah, you take on new levels of responsibility. You take on new stressors, just like you do with just about everything in life. So when it comes to college student debt, it's part of the gig, and I shouldn't have to pay for it. And especially these people in the military. We were talking about this earlier this morning, and I wanted to highlight a text from listener David this morning because I got to wondering, the student loan forgiveness. Joe's just going to wipe out $10,000 in debt, even though you signed your name. Yes, I'm going to pay this back. It sends it's just a bad lesson to be taught from the President of the United States of America. But the people that were in the military, that did the GI Bill, they paid. Man, they paid their debt to, I hate to say they paid their debt to society, but they went and did some stuff, man, fought for our country and all this stuff on the GI Bill. And then these other kids were just forgiven $10,000 in debt. Listener David texted earlier this morning, and he said, yeah, that is a very sore point of contention for somebody like me. There is a guy, his name is Phil Kerpen. He's been on the show before. Phil Kerpen, he is the president of AmericanCommitment.org, and he wrote a piece, and this is pertinent to Missouri. Well over 800,000 students that carry debt in Missouri are going to benefit from this. Where is it coming from? We're paying for it. But he's written a piece, Phil Kerpen has, says, can Biden even do this? If the Biden student loan bailout is illegal, who can stop it? And will they? Those are the key questions, and it may fall to two uniquely positioned states, Missouri and Oklahoma. Phil Kerpen, who wrote that article, joins us now. So, Phil, let me start here. We've heard a lot of people say the president can't do this. The president can't do this. He just can't wipe out debt like this. So can he?
Well, I don't think so. The Constitution gives the power of the purse to Congress. The Congressional Budget Office this week says this will cost at least $400 billion. The president is attempting to do this by reinterpreting a 2003 law called the HEROES Act that, speaking of the military, was supposed to be for forgiving loans for people in military-type emergency. It was passed as a response to 9/11, but the president is saying, well, the word emergency is in here. I'm saying COVID's an emergency. Everyone's a hero now. Take your $10,000 to $20,000 of free taxpayer money to pay off your debt. And we just had a decision in West Virginia versus EPA where the Supreme Court says you can't discover new powers in old laws. If something's a major question of major significance, and this clearly is, you can't do it unless Congress is clear that they want you to do this, the branch that's supposed to have that power. And so I think it's pretty clearly illegal. The Supreme Court will, if a case gets to them, almost certainly agree that it's illegal. The challenge is going to be finding a plaintiff that has an injury that's concrete enough for the courts to recognize standing, and that will be a challenge.
I know there's an Indiana lawyer. He has student loan debt. He is suing to stop the implementation of President Joe Biden's debt forgiveness. This, according to media.
Yeah.
The guy, are you familiar, Frank Garrison?
Yeah, this was filed yesterday, and there was another case that was filed in Oregon last week, I believe. I'll explain their theories of standing and why I'm not very confident in those cases. The Oregon one, the argument is the guy who filed it said, I have an adjustable rate mortgage, And if the president does this, the additional debt and borrowing of the $400 billion to $1 trillion will cause the Federal Reserve to raise interest rates more, and then I'll pay more on my mortgage. And he says that's my injury. I'm saying I believe the courts will say that is too indirect, too attenuated to be a concrete injury that gives him standing. The Indiana one is more clever. His argument is that he derives no benefit from the Biden action because he already is paying the maximum payments under an income-driven repayment plan. He pays 10% of his disposable income monthly, and he's a few years away from a public service loan forgiveness discharge. So his loans are going to be completely wiped out in a couple of years. And if the president takes $20,000 off his loan balance, that won't change his monthly payment, and he's still going to have the balance discharged at the same time. But public service loan forgiveness is tax exempt in the state of Indiana. The forgiveness under this new Biden decree has no exemption under Indiana law, and so the Biden action will directly raise his state income taxes by about $1,000. And so that's a pretty concrete injury. The problem is the White House was asked about this yesterday, and they said, we'll add an opt-out to the program for people like that. And so, because there are no rules written for this thing, there's no rulemaking, there's no guidance. All they've put out literally is a press release and a FAQ, a frequently asked questions document. It's totally amorphous, and so you can't pin down any of the program rules or specifics. And so when you bring a case like that, which is kind of brilliant, I think they can just change the program to moot it, and they've already said they're going to do that. And so I'm not sure that one will fly for the reason that they can add an opt-out and say people like that are going to be protected.
I do think, first of all, I think your article is very well done. A lot of detail in there, and I appreciate, Branden, having you on. The $400 billion amount grabs my attention because that is brand new information. But my question is this. You talked about, sir, the Oregon and the Indiana cases, and they're approaching it differently. What about the issue of whether or not it's actually constitutional? Can a president just sign his name on a paper canceling, $400 billion in debt? Is it constitutional or not? Because the guy saying his interest rate's going to go up at his house, that's going to get thrown out. I'm not sure. What about the fundamental question, and why is that not in the court?
Well, to get to that fundamental question, the way our court system works, you have to. There's no way to just say this law is unconstitutional. Court, tell me yes or no. You need to first prove that you're injured by the government action so that the court can issue a decision on the constitutionality. If you can't show an injury, then it'll be dismissed for lack of standing. And so that's that. I believe it's blatantly unconstitutional what the president's doing, but they're hoping that they'll be able to get away with it because nobody will be able to demonstrate an injury to challenge it. And that's where I believe your state comes in and is so crucial in this, because the state of Missouri is extremely injured by this action, more so than any other state, for the simple reason that the number one servicer of federal student loans in the country is the Missouri Higher Education Loan Authority, MOHELA, which brings in a massive amount of money from all 50 states servicing federal student loans. They get, I think like 1% or 2%, whatever. It's a small amount, but there's so many loans that they service that it brings in hundreds of millions of dollars to the state, which is used for all kinds of scholarship programs and grants and all sorts of things for people there in the state of Missouri. And so unlike just about everywhere else, your state will almost certainly be a net loser from this. Yes, you've got people like everywhere who are going to get part of their loan balance wiped out, but you've got a state agency that's going to lose a massive amount of its business, a massive amount of its revenue is just not going to be flowing into the state anymore because, half of those loans or more are going to be completely discharged. And so that, I believe, if your state were willing to sue, that is an injury that I believe would certainly survive standing analysis and then be able to get at that constitutional issue.
Phil Kerpen, president of American Commitment, AmericanCommitment.org. A lot of common sense stuff on this website. He thinks Biden's student loan forgiveness is unconstitutional. He's joining us this morning on Wake Up Mid-Missouri.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they're very, as I said, their whole strategy behind this is trying to prevent anyone who actually would be able to file a lawsuit from doing it. And so last year they got rid of all the debt collectors on federal student loans. There are no more debt collectors because those guys would have sued. And they set up all the servicing contracts to expire at the end of 2023. And so the servicing companies, including, your lending agency there in Missouri, which, as I said, is the biggest one, they all kind of know it's going to be the same administration with the same education department that's deciding on who gets the next round of contracts. And, do I want to rock the boat? That's the decision that they're going to have to make. And frankly, I'm not sure that any of the servicers are willing to rock the boat. I think that it's going to take, there's one other state that has a state agency that is a federal loan servicer. That's Oklahoma. I think it's going to take one or both of those states having their governors or their legislatures intercede and direct the state lending agency to sue on this, because left to their own devices, they're not going to want to rock the boat with the federal agency they get all their business from.
All right, Phil, I got about a minute here. So we say this is unconstitutional. It's wrong. It's against the law with this, and I think a lot of other stuff, frankly, that the Biden administration is doing, things that he does that affects my fellow Missourians here in mid-Missouri, and I hate it. But what do we do to stop? We say it's unconstitutional, but how do you stop this kind of stuff?
Well, the state lending agency, Mohella, is the board is all appointed by the governor. And so I really think that you've got to direct your attention to Governor Parson and say, they're not going to do this on their own. You've got to make that. You've got to do it on behalf of the state and on behalf of the lending agency, behalf of the taxpayers, consumers, so forth, because otherwise, it's not going to happen. And so I would say, the governor's the person you get to vote for. He's the one that's accountable to you, and he's got the power to appoint the board of the lending agency. So I would focus on trying to get some pressure on him.
All right, AmericanCommitment.org. I'm sure you dig this website. The president, Phil Kerpen, great case for why this is unconstitutional, what Joe is doing as it relates to student loan forgiveness and how it could potentially be stopped and why it is so important for us here in Missouri. Man, always a pleasure when we get to hang out with you. Thanks for joining us.
All right. Have a good one, guys.
All right. We'll see you next time. Today, right about lunchtime, usually, we're putting out those passes for the Tiger Tailgate. Here's the deal. Our friends at Culligan of Mid-Missouri, Buffalo Wild Wings, Bud Light, High Noon Seltzers. 2 hours prior to the game. Number 1, Georgia. The Dogs in town Saturday night here in mid-Missouri. And we do a big old party, and it is free. A lot of food, a lot of drink. Here's what you can do in places like Jefferson City. You can go to Vaughn's Pools and Spas, pick up your free passes. So you can also try Big Whiskeys there in Columbia. You can go to Big O Tires, Culligan of mid-Missouri. Pick up your passes. Join us a couple hours prior to the game Saturday night. And you can join us at our 93.9 The Eagle and News Radio 104.5 KWOS Tigers Tailgate. It's great, man. Coming up 5 minutes from now, Morning Bell with Stephanie Bell, business. Good morning. 8:26, time for the Morning Bell business news with that little twist that only Stephanie Bell can give you.
It's not good news.
Uh-oh.
It's not good news for Florida because Hurricane Ian is about to make landfall. It's really nearing, I think, a Cat 5. But more importantly, I didn't know this, but I guess there's a lot of fertilizer manufactured in Florida. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
Well, it's called Mosaic Company, and apparently they make 50% of the North American farmers' supply of granular phosphate fertilizer and 12% of the global fertilizer, and they're headquartered in Tampa.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. And so if our food prices weren't already expensive enough, they're worried that the lack, if this makes landfall and it hits fertilizer, then, farmers, the supply is down and the cost of fertilizer goes up, and then the cost of our food goes back up.
As a matter of fact, coming up, I think like 8:35, we're going to hear from a couple of, or at least one local restaurant owner. They were chatting with one of the local TV stations with KRCG and saying, yeah, this stuff, the trucks that I'm paying to deliver the goods to me, their gas prices went up. Guess what? I got to pay them more. The food that is getting delivered to me, guess what? That costs more. And guess what? I've got to pass that along to you. And especially you're in the restaurant industry. I've never owned a restaurant, but I'm guessing profit margins are incredibly thin. And so these folks locally trying to do stuff. And now with this, with the fertilizer to grow the stuff and
Yeah, I thought about, the flight disruptions and the theme parks and the closures and that kind of stuff. But I had no idea that Florida was like our fertilizer capital state.
Right? Who knew? There's something else you knew. We learned a valuable lesson earlier this morning from State Treasurer Scott Fitzpatrick.
That was not on my bingo card for today.
Who happened to be celebrating his 35th birthday today. His kids, I didn't know he was only 35.
Young guy.
But we were talking, there's an auction coming up next week, and this is an auction stuff, unclaimed property, from safe deposit boxes and things like that. There's like valuable Pez dispensers, Superman comic books, $1,000 bill.
That's cool.
Yeah, a $500 bill. And so we were asking them about, because they find, samurai swords and stuff they find in these safe deposit boxes, and it's always fun. And we asked them, is there ever anything that you find in those safe deposit boxes that you go, man, that should never see the light of day? And his answer this morning, wow. State Treasurer of Missouri saying, well, you should be talking to your fam. Don't put this in the safe deposit boxes. Wow. If you get a chance, go back and whenever we get the podcast up of today's show, typically podcasts are up on 93.9theeagle.com and KWOS.com. Typically we have those up by about 10 o'clock, but you go to the 7 o'clock hour and listen for the conversation that we had with Scott Fitzpatrick. Coming up, so yeah, I think we're going to do some of the some local restaurant folks and the issues they're having with increased costs on things. And we got the new Trudy Bush Valentine ad. She's trailing way behind in the polls to Eric Schmidt in that race for the U.S. Senate seat currently held by Blunt. Some of the things we're covering 5 minutes from now here on Wake Up, Mid-Missouri.
It's the right time. She's the right choice with a caring heart. She's a brand new voice, an inspiration for all to see. Show me Missouri, show me.
It's everybody's favorite part of Wake Up Mid-Missouri. It's when John, Hannah, Brian Houseworth.
Yeah.
By the way, I forgot about that clapping there at the end of the song. We've never played it all the way through.
Sounds very enthusiastic. Yeah, the one guy. Yeah.
I didn't even hear the clap.
They're clapping because the song is over.
We'd never listened to the thing all the way through to hear that there was. Yeah.
The one thing I don't know how many listeners have seen it, Brandon and Stephanie, but I do know that Trudy Bush Valentine, who's the Democratic nominee for Senate, has just released a brand new television ad. I don't know if you guys have seen it, but basically it's a little bit different than what we've seen before. And this one is more aggressive. She actually looks straight into the camera, almost looked like she was ad-libbed. I mean, maybe it wasn't, but she looks into the camera and really goes after Eric Schmidt on the issue of abortion. I think that it's a powerful ad, and I think what she's trying to do is energize the Democratic base. We'll see.
Respect people's freedom to make their own health care decisions. Eric Schmidt believes otherwise. His mandate made Missouri the first state to ban abortion. No exceptions for rape or incest. Government mandating women's health care decisions is un-American.
As part of the Trudy Bush Valentine abortion ad that you were just talking about, because that's what they're on. It's abortion for them. To us, it's the economy, stupid. For them, it's abortion, stupid. But here's what I'm hoping, is that enough of these people will realize, you know what? Let's say you are a far progressive chick and you want to have your right to go and get abortions. I'd say, how many times do you plan on getting an abortion in the next year? All right. Maybe once. Or how many times you plan on eating and putting gas in your car over the next year? Oh, 3 times a day and gas in your car once a week? Well, that happens more often. Maybe you should make it about the economy. Stupid.
And even if she gets elected, she's not going to change abortion policy. I mean, again, the court kicked it to the states. So we have a supermajority of Republicans in the state. There's no, if you want different abortion policy in Missouri, you need to move. And her getting elected is not going to change that. I mean, there's some federal legislation, but I don't think that's going anywhere. And she's got the other ad out about China. And, Billy Long went after Schmidt in the primary, Shanghai Schmidt, the whole thing. I mean, there were some ads about China, and I don't think it really moved the needle. Schmidt still blew everyone else out of the water there. I don't know that that's going to play well in the general.
Stephanie's point, though, is so well taken about the fact is if the Democrats want to change specifically the law in Missouri or elsewhere, it is about state legislative seats. And if you look, and people can go to sos.mo.gov and take a look, the Democrats have essentially written off numerous, I could count them up, numerous rural state senates, not only state senate, state house seats. They're not running candidates in these rural areas. In many areas, Republicans are guaranteed. It's just the Democrats either didn't get recruits, or if they did, they didn't get enough, because a lot of those seats, and by the same token, always happens to Republicans are not running in a lot of the urban seats as well, particularly in the 2 cities. That's generally been the trend.
But I'm wondering, and I'm going to stereotype, and not all stereotypes work. Not all of them, but a lot of them do. I'm going to make the assumption, let's say these progressives, we want abortion. They're too stupid to know it's a state rights issue. They just know Democrats are for abortion. I'm voting for all the Democrats. I'm voting for Democrats. Voting for Democrats. They're in favor of abortion. They're in favor of abortion.
I think, Brandon, the only other thing, the only way that would change is if, and right now the numbers are just too close, but President Biden is hoping to get, and he's made this clear, I think, that if he gets a certain amount of seats, and I don't know how many that would be because you've got the possibility of a filibuster, but what they would try to do is codify Roe v. Wade into law. Right. That would be, and I assume that's what Trudy Bush Valentine, although she didn't come out and say that, but you're right in that a lot of people I don't think have read the Supreme Court's ruling. I think that's
and those people are progressive.
They did not read it.
And they're being told, vote for Democrats. We give you freedom of choice. Vote for Democrats. Vote even if it's on a national level, because these people don't understand that.
And the other thing, John, and you and I were there and covered it, and for young people, they have no idea. Almost all of the anti-abortion laws that are in effect, that are signed into law, that are in place right now, were passed by Democratic-controlled legislatures, and some signed by Democratic governors going back to Mr. Teasdale. But certainly through 1999, remember, it was a Democratic legislature that overrode Democratic Governor Mel Carnahan on a partial birth veto abortion bill. People forget that. That was a Democratic legislature. Most of them were pro-life. They're all gone right now. A lot of them literally are dead. Others were term limited out. But that's not that long ago. That's 23 years ago. And now I believe all of them in the General Assembly, the Democrats, are pro-choice. But at that time, they were anti-abortion.
All right. This is Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Brian, staff, producer Hannah, I am Branden Rathert. John Marsh is here, too. For me, I think it's the economy, stupid, and I'm hoping they get it. By the way, polls show Eric Schmidt with a real comfortable lead over Trudy Bush Valentine. I think that's pretty solid polling. But all these other polls that showed Democrats in other Senate races, like in Pennsylvania and Colorado, that show the Democrats winning, I don't trust those polls. Usually they're pretty faulty. But the one that shows Eric Schmidt winning here, I'm sure that's a pretty solid poll. It's the economy, stupid. KRCG, chatting with some owners of local restaurants. One of them, Matt Jenny, he's co-owner of Addison's, famous for their nachos at Addison's. Like whenever people come into town, right? It's like, where can I go locally that's a signature dish?
Addison's.
And the nachos they have there. But they're talking about, again, it's the economy, stupid. Everything, cost of food goes up. Cost of gasoline to ship that food to restaurants and to grocery stores, that goes up. And people like this local dude, Matt Jenny, who hires a handful of local people between his two restaurants that he had. Well, I think actually three. He's got a couple of Addison's, and I think he's part owner of Sophia's, too. So they have some people locally that they pay that put money into this community, and this guy's trying to stay open.
It's definitely impacted all restaurants. We've had to increase our menu prices because of food costs, but not only food costs, because labor costs have gone up as well.
If you can find labor. Did you see this story, Marcia, in the Jefferson City News Tribune, what the state is doing to try to get... Nice piece by Ryan Pavoni in the Jefferson City News Tribune, and it's I think you labeled it best.
It's like Shark Tank for state employees. They have some ideas for how to make for recruitment and for how to make the state more efficient, and they presented them, and I think they're under advisement. I think maybe someone's going to be the winner.
Yeah, I guess there's a winner and a $10,000 grand prize. No, I don't know if that actually happens, but they're relying on employees like, hey, we'll forgive your student loan. They're asking their employees, like, hey, what can we do for recruitment? What can we do? Well, 4-day work week, cash incentives. And here's, I think, really the challenge with recruiting anybody to work for a small local business, whether it's a restaurant or state employees in Jefferson City, is you're having a hard time. And everybody has really, it seems like, the same incentives, whether it's a commercial that you might hear for a local hiring firm or a state entity, and that is paid time off, signing bonus, health, dental, vision, education is kind of an extra one. I think sometimes we make it too complicated. Just about, how about this? And you can bring your dog to work. Like here at Zimmer. And I don't even have a dog. But I think that's a cool thing.
If you like dogs.
If you like dogs.
But for me, it would be a disincentive to work somewhere that has dogs roaming around.
I'm going to get you a dog that looks like a bird, and I'm going to call it Ranch. Combine all three things you don't like: birds, dogs, and ranch dressing.
Gross.
But dogs, bring your dogs to work. I think that's an incentive, working from home. But what can you do beyond that? Like, money. It's money.
They are doing that. Didn't they? Everyone got a pay increase, right? Their state employee pay raise passed.
Yeah. I just don't know what more you could do, because I'm trying, if I personalize it for me, what would get you to leave a job? Generous time off, generous understanding, like you come in and tell your boss, I'm not sick today, but I'm taking a mental health day. I just don't want to be here. I'm not going to do a good job for you today. How about I just check out? Don't be mad, and I'll come back tomorrow. We'll call it good. I think understanding like that, maybe from employers, keeping in mind that I have a deep, loyal commitment to anybody that I've worked for, except for the last folks and the folks before that, because if I did, I'd still be there. But I'm here now. But it'd be nice. Hey, I just don't want to come into work today. How about some leniency there?
Yeah.
That would work.
I mean, I think we're going to, the pendulum kind of swings from one extreme to the other. And right now we're in kind of a market where, employees are few and far between and they have a lot of options. But, at some point it's going to swing back the other way. And, your decisions will impact your career. And I think a lot of people are hopping to the next best thing right now. And there's something to be said, as someone who's basically worked the same job my whole life. There's something to be said to loyalty to the cause and to an organization and to the folks that you commit yourselves to, and to dedicating yourself to a career and a purpose to get better at something. It takes time. And so I think right now, the employees who are out there who are just grabbing for the next little benefit and popping around are going to have done themselves a disservice.
Well, even look at Columbia Police Department. They had to Saturday put on a recruitment event because they can't get people to come and
about climate change, but what effect does climate change have on this phenomenon that is happening now? Because it seems these storms are intensifying. That's the question.
I don't think you can link climate change to any one event. Okay. To link it to any one event, I would caution against that.
Okay. Well, listen, I grew up there, and these storms are intensifying.
So that's Don Lemon from CNN. The NOAA weather dude is up. He's giving the weather forecast, and Don Lemon's going to work in the climate change in this particular hurricane, which is massive. And you could tell the weather guy standing there on screen doing the weather with Don Lemon says, well, for number one, I think he was uncomfortable. He's like, dude, I'm just up here to give the weather and the maps and the stuff, and you're asking me about climate change. And he catches the guy off guard, and the guy shuts Don Lemon down. Well, you can't link climate change to a hurricane because, we have hurricanes, man. But then Don Lemon with that recovery at the end. Well, I grew up in Florida, and the storms are tougher today, he said to the NOAA weather person. The storms are stronger today than what they were back then. Crazy. All right, before we get into the Gary Nolan show, we're getting upon a very important period of the year. There's only 53 days to do this?
54.
54 days to do this. Annual enrollment in period with Medicare. Wendy Sprouse, Medicare nerd, self-described Medicare nerd, joining us. This is important stuff for a large section of people here in mid-Missouri. It's that we're coming up on that time of year. What do we need to know this time around?
Just really need to know that October 15th to December 7th is the annual election period. Every year you can change your drug plan, your Medicare Advantage plan. You have that 54-day window that you can make your changes, and you can make multiple. I would only recommend making one at most, but you need to get with your agent and see what is the upcoming latest and greatest for 2023. So
anything specifically that you can kind of, because we've got all right, so what do we have? A little over 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks to start thinking about what we're going to do here coming up in the middle of October. Anything that you can kind of give us a heads up on?
There hasn't been really a lot of plan changes. Dramatic, but people change drugs. And so whenever you're changing your drugs, you need to go to Medicare.gov or come to somebody like me, another agent locally, and have them go to Medicare.gov and put your list of drugs in and find out what is going to be the best plan that suits you for the 2023 year.
So when somebody comes, by the way, how can we find Wendy Sprouse, the Medicare nerd? Does it say it on your business stuff? Do you have a plaque at your office that says Wendy Sprouse, the Medicare nerd, thanks to the folks from Wake Up Mid-Missouri?
Here's what I'm going to tell you, Brandon. What? Haven't you heard? I'm the Medicare nerd.
Haven't you heard?
That's some Billy Long stuff right there.
that's Don't be silly. Vote for Billy.
That's my new tagline. Haven't you heard? I'm the Medicare nerd.
Haven't you heard? I'm the Medicare nerd. Don't be wrong. Vote long.
573-292-NERD. 573-292.
So if I call this right now, do you answer?
Yes, of course.
Hey, Mr. Hanson, can you plot up my phone line over there?
Yes, I can.
All right. Go ahead and turn me a phone line on. All right. What's the number?
573.
Okay.
292-NERD. NERD. 6373.
So I call that nerd. I hate when people do. That's hard for me to follow. The number and the nerd.
Your call has been forwarded to an automatic voice message system. 57382373881 is not available. At the tone, please record your message. When you have finished recording, you may hang up or press 1 for more options.
Yeah, Wendy, it's Branden Rathert. My friend Steph's going to need some Medicare info here real soon. I'm kidding.
Rude on two accounts. A, no one should ever leave a voicemail. And B, yeah.
I don't know why it went straight to voicemail, because as you saw, my phone was ringing. I could see it ringing, but then it picked right up to voicemail.
What's the most common question you get when folks come by, when they call your phone number, or when they come by to see you? Most common question number one.
The most common I really have been running into lately are people that are continuing to work past 65 and have credible coverage. So Medicare sends out all this stuff when you turn about 64 and a half, but when you turn 65, the government says you have to get Medicare or have credible coverage. Well, if you're working and you have credible coverage, you don't have to do anything. And that is really the most confusing for people, knowing, because they said, well, we got this thing saying we're going to get fined and, penalties and all this stuff if we don't do something at 65, but we still have our work insurance. That's fine. Those people don't have to do anything until they leave that credible coverage.
And phone number one more time.
It's 573-292-6373, and then also WendySprouseAgency.com.
WendySprouseAgency.com, 292-NERD.
Correct.
Haven't you heard? She's the Medicare nerd.
Haven't you heard? I'm the Medicare nerd.
Wendy Sprouse, we appreciate you. Thanks for coming by.
Thanks, Brandon.
All right, Gary Nolan Show is coming up just minutes from now here on 93.9 The Eagle and News Radio 104.5 KWOS. See ya.
Bye.